got you.
All right, creatures of the night, welcome to episode 151 of Talking Taker, our encyclopedic exploration digging up the career of the greatest professional wrestling character of all time, The Undertaker. My name is Alex Dorio, and I am one of your co-hosts. I am joined, as always, tonight by my tag team partner, my wrestling buddy. He is joining me for part 2 of this last ride, Mr. Travis White. And Travis, I said it last week, I'll say it again this week, there's nobody I'd rather take this last ride with than you, my friend. We've watched The Undertaker's entire career together. We're on the tail end of it in our podcast, but now that The Undertaker's career is officially ended, in his own words, with a tiny little asterisk next to those words, we're recapping this series of The Last Ride. Last week we did episodes 1 through 3. This week we're talking about the final 2 chapters here. It was too big for one episode. We had to split it up, man. And it's been a few weeks now, but it still doesn't even seem real that The Undertaker has rode off into the sunset.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't seem real, but they're keeping it fresh in our minds. You know, they had some stuff at Money in the Bank with AJ Styles running in that room that had Undertaker's crap in it.
Right.
This past week on SmackDown, they had a whole night devoted to him, and kind of came out of the blue, honestly. But it was pretty cool. I haven't seen the whole episode yet. I just haven't had time, but I have seen some clips. I saw the ending, and I think it's cool to have had Jeff Hardy be the one kind of at the end doing the Taker Shakespeare pose, because that guy's career was made that one night in 2002 with Taker. So
yeah, man, I agree with you. I thought very, very symbolic, very cool for Jeff to do the Undertaker's pose at the end of that tribute. Just cool to see guys like The New Day and Matt Riddle and stuff, and Braun Strowman paying tribute to The Undertaker. But yeah, who else on the roster would really make sense to do that tribute? Obviously things are limited right now with the virus, and WWE's stuff is all screwed up, because of that. But there's not many guys left that have that personal connection that would matter, that would mean something to do that. And they were in Elimination Chamber together, so they did have one sort of pay-per-view match, but they never quite had a pay-per-view feud. And yet that one match on Raw just holds so much power, so much significance. It's probably the most memorable non-pay-per-view match of Undertaker's career. And like you said, it made Jeff Hardy. So really neat to see him getting to be able to take center stage in that tribute.
Yeah, and I know you hate Baron Corbin, and I think he's a fantastic heel. And he's doing his job, performer than to get what a better performer than to get. He was mocking Taker the whole time and stuff, but it was great, man. And just really cool, interviews with Taker's peers throughout the night. And they showed the Boneyard match, kind of an edited version of it, but that match is epic. I can't wait to talk about that on this show. So,
well, we are going to talk about it. Full disclosure, we're recording a new intro. We actually recorded this stuff last week, pretty much just 2 days after this final episode aired, and then we ended up splitting the episode in half because it ran long, and because we had some scheduling needs. So we needed to make it a 2-parter here. We'll take you there to that in just a moment. Travis, I know you wanted to bring up one other thing that recently has been on the WWE Network with the Mark Henry Broken Skull podcast, Broken Skull Sessions that just aired on there. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but they've all been fantastic so far. I will definitely watch it over this long July 4th weekend. But it seems like every episode, Undertaker, some facts, some stories have come up about him. He's kind of like in that. He's in Andre the Giant and Ric Flair territory now, that Everybody has got an Undertaker story, and everybody loves to tell Undertaker stories too.
Oh yeah, and Mark Henry, he talks about him thinking Taker was ribbing him when he first came in and calling him, "Oh, there's a new babyface." Well, Mark Henry didn't know what the term babyface meant. He was like, "I ain't got no babyface" and all this stuff. But anyway, and then he talks about Taker kind of taking him under his wing later on and stuff like that. And then he talks about, I think Austin asked him something about just, what'd you learn being in the ring with Taker, and he just said everything. I learned how to work once I was in the ring with him. I learned about the little things, and he said, and I'll tell you what, I've been in this business since 95 or whatever. And he said, there's nothing like being in that ring when Taker's music hits. Like there's nothing like being in there. So he talks a little bit about how, his career started and stopped and stuff, but Taker was always there to help him out and give him pointers and stuff. But it's really cool. I don't want to spoil all of it or anything, but just I'd encourage you. Mark Henry is a fantastic interview, and he's so emotional. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's so passionate about the business. That's why he and Bully Ray are the reason I listen to Busted Open Radio. Mainly him, because he's such a fantastic mind for the business. But really cool Taker stuff there. I'd recommend you guys check it out.
He really is such a great storyteller. Like you said, such a great mind for the business. He's so smart, and it's so funny. That didn't seem to come out until the very end of his career, when he really started to, you could see that in him, and he was so great on promos during that Hall of Pain run, but man, for so long it was just not there. And so it's really cool to see him as this elder statesman now. And I can't wait to watch it. I'm sure it'll be good. All of those Broken Skull Sessions interviews are A+ must-watch stuff for all of us fans. I think that does it for us here right now. We will now take you over. We're going to cover chapters 4 and 5 of the Last Ride series. We covered episodes 1 through 3 last week, so definitely go back and listen to that. Like I said last week, I'm sure all of you have seen these 2 episodes, but if for some bizarre reason you haven't seen these 2 episodes, definitely go check those out, rewatch them, and we will tell you our favorite moments. We'll pass out some Undie awards, and we'll talk about the emotional ending to the Last Ride series.
Which is going to take us to chapter 4, which is called The Battle Within.
So this one starts out with a lot of really early footage talking about Undertaker living the gimmick, and Mick Foley talks about how he feels like he knows Mark Calloway less now than he did when he first met him, which is really a funny thing to say. And we get some great classic footage of Paul Bearer and my favorite stuff ever, which is the stuff of them building the coffins for Kamala and Yokozuna inside the barn, and some outtakes in the graveyard. Man, I need a whole special just on graveyard outtakes, dude.
It'd be great. Yeah, Taker's like shaking a little skull or something at one point. It's hilarious. Yeah, all this B-roll footage was great, man. And then Pritchard talking about how he because I think people give Taker and Vince a lot of credit for this character, but Bruce Pritchard, he takes a lot of credit for it, but I'll give him a lot too, man, because he really was involved in it. Like he talks about here, I bought books about morticians and about undertakers and about the Old West and about death and dying and stuff. We wanted to make this character as authentic as possible to fit in a wrestling, ring. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, he says he bought them. He doesn't say he read them.
No, I don't know. You can get him a Taker, but I know, Taker's one of his lifelong friends, and I know the Kane storyline is one of his favorite things, and he named his son Kane. But it's just it's pretty cool to see him talk about how much they all invested into it. So
much like Chris Jericho, I think Bruce Pritchard is his own biggest fan, but he is absolutely a pivotal part of this, and yes, he clearly worked with the Undertaker, and he was at a lot of these promos, and he was part of building that foundation of who the Undertaker is, without a doubt. I would never argue that. And so there's some just classic stuff of Undertaker appearing in character as the Undertaker at all these functions on Regis and Kathy Lee. I love seeing Reg on there for a moment. Him with Michael Hayes at some big event outside some arena. And, some classic moments of guys trying to make him break character throughout the years.
And how are you, Undertaker? Fine. Oh, good.
Are those enough words? What would you like to hear? Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So much professionalism and so much control over his emotions and this character. You know what you need? You need a vacation. You need to get you an RV, go for a couple thousand miles. It was a running gag or joke, whatever you want to call it with us, to try to get him to break character. Almost got you, and I damn sure got me.
Oh yeah, just with the Taker Rooney and Kurt Angle like kissing him, and I think they must have been on an overseas flight or something. Because Taker's like, it's a long flight home, boy. He's just threatening him, but the best one is JBL. I guess it's a dark segment or whatever. I don't know, but it is JBL's talking about, maybe you should go take a ride in an RV or something, go cross country or something like that. Which this is not on the episode, but I want to go ahead and break this down because Taker mentioned on After the Bell last week with Corey Graves that JBL is actually referring to a true story. He said that they're really good friends, and he knew that he had just bought an RV that wound up being just the hugest limit of a purchase. Like, it was just dead. And he said, I wound up spending way too much money trying to sue the guy that I bought it from. So at this point, JBL is like literally ribbing him in the ring about something he knows he's going to laugh about. So, and you can see Taker biting his lip, like not to laugh at that RV comment. So it's great.
He's got the little tiniest smile cracking on his face.
Yeah.
He's so close, man. There's actually another one of the bonus scenes on YouTube is JBL kind of going off about that story a little bit too and explaining what you just said on there. So that was cool moment. Glad they talked about that. And that all kind of transitions into this period after that Crown Jewel match where Undertaker, this is when he first got on social media. Was doing Instagram and Twitter for the first time. He talks about, okay, I've been so committed to this character. I've passed up so many opportunities to make money and to do extra stuff. I'm at the end of my career. I want to do some of this stuff now. And this was when he signed on for StarCast, for the big podcast / autograph convention that Conrad Thompson did a few of. I guess they're not doing them anymore. They did 3 or 4 of them, but maybe they'll go back to it, whatever. But Undertaker was announced. He was the headlining guy for this, and then pulled back from it because this was right when AEW was actually going to launch, too.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting. That they talked about it and showed the logo, but Taker said, he said, it was never pitched to me that this other company was even associated with it. So, and I think, Conrad talks about how they are supposed to be separate things. They just coincide at the same time, but I did think it was a little weird that he wasn't really brought into the light about it being in conjunction with AEW. But anyway, Taker seemed kind of offended talking about this. Like, why would anyone consider I'm going to jump ship? Are you serious? Like, I didn't jump ship. Like you mentioned earlier, I didn't go anywhere during the tough times, like the early 90s, mid 90s in WWE. So, and then he's like, me and Vince had a brief falling out, and then we got it settled. And then he does this little like Jim Halpert face for those of you Office fans. He does it all throughout this episode. Like he's like looks at the camera and does like a smirk and then rolls his eyes in the back of his head. So like not Taker style, but like rolling his eyes.
Yeah, he says it's been all sunshine and rainbows ever since they talked it out here. And
yeah.
I swear he's watched The Office. I swear him and Michelle.
He has to. Yeah.
He is pulling a lot of Halpert faces here.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the overarching theme, and this episode is sort of that falling out a little bit between, and a little awkward tension between Undertaker and Vince, because after that, and I'm sure Vince cost Taker a nice big payday on this StarCast thing. I'm sure he was going to get a nice... we talked about how much money he must have made from that signing that we went to, just trying to do the math on that. And then Undertaker he's not booked, man. He's what's the guy from Beyond the Mat? Dennis Stamp. He's not booked.
Dennis Stamp.
He's not booked at Mania 35. And the whole story of that, for the first time in 14 years, he's not going to be on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he talks about, I'm okay with it, but you can see it become real when he's actually there, and he's not on the card and he's sitting backstage in Gorilla. But he tries to, I'm fine, I'm cool. But he's definitely hurt, and he talks about it's a rough night. But, it's bittersweet because, he's not on the card. He's not going to do what he does at WrestleMania, which, between him, now that Shawn Michaels is retired again, he is Mr. WrestleMania, so, but you get to see him. He's like, I had the weekend off. I wasn't worrying about my match or going through walkthroughs or rehearsals. I got to enjoy Access and spend time with what's her daughter's name? Kayla,
I
Kaya,
think so.
something.
Kaya, I think so.
Taking her to see, Mommy's Divas title and going and doing all the stuff and calling matches on the little stuff at Access. And so, he got to cut loose and enjoy the time. So that was pretty cool, which is kind of how do you balance these two things. That's the episode's called The Battle Within, like I want to still go, but I want to have my family too. So.
Yeah, you see that family aspect of this really creeping into him and being this bigger draw on his life as well here. But we get the great story of whoever the booking committee is deciding, well, we're going to use Undertaker on Raw on Monday. Is that cool with you? And Taker's like, I guess, but I don't have my gear. And they're like, well,
dude,
go get it, pal. So he flies home to Houston.
What?
Grabs his gear and flies back to New York for the show. And just this classic interaction with Vince.
What a rookie mistake, though.
Well,
they all say
he's
that.
not booked.
Yeah, but they always say you always travel with your gear.
That is true. Yes,
you're right. He is Taker though, but it's funny. They're just ribbing him. But yeah, he like you say, he gets back and he's backstage in Gorilla, and Vince is giving him a hard time. He's like, whoa, pal.
Wait a minute. I'm dying. Sorry.
Sorry.
I told him not to. I didn't have anything to do with that. A pro would bring their gear. Always. And it's always right up here.
Well, okay.
Where I can get my hands on it.
That's good, but a pro would have booked me to start with.
I had a point.
All right.
You're not going to wear that shirt. All right.
It's a little bit of truth to that, dig at each other, but man, just I could watch these two guys talk, but
well, then Vince says he's gonna book Taker against Giant Gonzalez's son, which if I had to bet, I wouldn't have thought Vince remembered who Giant Gonzalez was. So I'm amazed that he pulled that out.
I know. Well, let me go ahead and tell the story, too. It's something that After the Bell podcast, too. Taker talks about when he was, scouting Yokozuna. He'd seen him wrestle or whatever. And he was like, he said he goes to Vince. He's like, I want to work. Can you put me in first with this guy? This was, 93?
Yeah, 93, 94.
3?
Yep.
He's like, can you put me in this first? And Vince said, no, pal. I got somebody else for you. And he's right there. And he points on the hallway. And Giant Gonzalez is in the hallway. And Taker's like, I was so mad. He said, I literally left WCW hoping I'd never see that guy again. El Gigante. And then I go to WWE and I have to work with him in WrestleMania. So anyway, that's not on the Last Ride documentary. I would like to encourage you guys to listen to After the Bell with Corey Graves. It was great.
That's
anyway,
amazing.
I just thought it fit well right here.
Well, thank God he didn't have to work with his son or him any time during this show or anything like that. But Batista, we get a great moment with him again. He's another low-key great part of this series and jokes about with Undertaker saying, well, not on the card, man. I'm going to steal your moves tonight. And Taker's like, well, just do them right. And
yeah.
You just see that bond between those guys. And we've talked about it on the show, just how pivotal Undertaker was to Batista's career. You can see, even in 2020 when they're interviewing him, how much that still rings true.
Yeah, and you can see how hurt he is at not being at WrestleMania, but he does get his moment the next night with Elias, which I assumed that's who he's going to work with at Saudi, but it's not. Thought they were going to build towards Saudi with him and Elias, but it's Goldberg instead.
Yeah, they teased some stuff with Elias a few times, and he
Multiple
plays a part in
times,
that
yeah.
Extreme Rules match, and kind of does some stuff at that WrestleMania 34 at the beginning of that, but they never really worked together. This is sort of the only thing they really do. So yeah, he gets that moment on Raw. He's got the straps down on Raw. I think that he's trying to show Vince and everybody all right, you didn't book me on WrestleMania. I'm in great shape, man. I can still go. I think that's deliberate. And yeah, this starts the build to Goldberg, Undertaker, and Saudi Arabia. Gives us the backstage moment of Matthew McConaughey and Lance Armstrong, but mainly Matthew McConaughey backstage paying their respects to the dead man, which was not, I was not expecting that. That was amazing.
Not at all expecting that. It was excellent. I mean, I loved it so good. Yeah, and that's going to take us to Saudi, and we'll cover this match in depth later. But Goldberg got concussed real early, leads to some missteps, which is I'd say some big missteps. Big bad stuff. And Taker's reaction after the match, he said, that was my legit reaction. Like, I don't normally show that, but I was legit disappointed. But he goes on to talk about I literally came inches away from not walking again, maybe. And he's like, I had to think about my wife and kids. Like, is it worth it anymore? I'm 2 inches away, So, and then Michelle McCool talks about how she watches matches and texts him and, are you okay? And he usually says, I'm okay, babe. This time he admitted, my back is in pain. So she knows him. She knows if he's admitting he's in pain, he's in some serious pain.
I instantly text our doctors and I was like, is he okay? Normally, if he's away and I know something's happened, I text him like, babe, you okay? And it's normally, yeah, I'm good. Don't worry, I'm good. And I text him like, how bad is it? He's like, man, my back is jacked up. And I was like, for him to admit that he was truly in some serious pain, I don't think I could even fathom how bad it really was.
It's just like, wow, that was really close to being catastrophic.
It's a huge turning point. The commentary they show during this match is Michael Cole's like, oh, Goldberg wanted the jackhammer, didn't get all of it. I mean, that's one way to put it, man. It is just, I remember watching it live, just thinking, what everybody thought, like, oh my God, he broke his neck. I don't know how he's going to get up from that. It is painful to watch every time they show a replay of it. And yeah, it's hard to blame Goldberg. I mean, that's an accident. He's not getting a concussion on purpose, but that match is the definition of Yike-a-roni. And I thought it was interesting. We don't hear from Goldberg at all on this special. I don't know if there is heat between those guys at all over any of this stuff going down. But we hear from pretty much everybody else during this whole series, but there's no Goldberg interviews, no part of him talking about this. So I don't know if Taker still holds a grudge over that at all. Just thought that was interesting.
I've heard him in some interviews since he's been doing this, and he has never said anything negative about Goldberg. And I think on Goldberg's 24, they talk about it a little bit, and he talks about how he's apologized and it is what it is. But
yeah.
I don't think there's any. I mean, there's two old guys out there in the 100 degrees sand. Sand heat. This is a bad idea.
Probably shouldn't have happened. Right.
Right.
It's cool that it happened, and everyone hoped for the best. And it was like, if it could have worked, it would have been really awesome. But it was the worst possible outcome for that match. And so, obviously, Undertaker's not retiring off of that. He can't possibly do it, even though he's feeling these doubts and these fears. And so maybe that's why he comes back for a tag team match, playa, at Extreme Rules 2019. Maybe that's part of why that happens, is so he can maybe not have to carry all the weight of a big match, and he can go in there with guys like Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon, and he can come in and do his spots and do his stuff and work around his limitations a little bit.
Yeah, and that was a fun match. It was a great match. It came off great. We'll talk about it in depth on here. And, at the end of the match, he wins with a tombstone on Shane, and he and Roman kind of pose in the ring. He kind of passed Roman on the chest, kind of almost passing the torch like, and kind of gives him a nod. And it looks like they kind of made up for their WrestleMania match. And, he comes straight back to Gorilla and tells Vince, I'm done. He says, that's it. He's like, I don't mean to spring that on you, but I guess I did spring it on you. But, Vince is like, well, we'll talk about it, Mark, but, I'll follow your lead. And, at this point, says he's finished. That could be it. He can go out on a shield there, I guess.
Yeah, he's been looking for this way out for about 2 years now, and it's just never felt right. And the first time he has a good match, pretty much since over the past 2 years, he's like, okay, well, I'll be done here. That'll work.
Yeah.
But I don't believe him here. I don't believe he's walking out at Extreme Rules at this B show. I don't believe he's going to be okay with being. I believe he might have thought that in the moment, but I would have never thought that would be his actual last match here.
Right. Well, it takes me back to a quote that he says earlier. He says, with regards to wrestling, basically, he's like, it's not about the money, it's about the passion.
This has always been the one thing in my life that I know, that I know without a doubt. At this point, I got the answers. I know what to do in those situations. And, you don't always know those things as a husband, as a father. This is the one thing that I've always felt like if something came up, I had the answer.
Which is, an interesting look on the only thing he has complete control over. So, like, when he walks back through the stage here and tells Vince, like, I'm done, like, he had control, I guess, knowing that he could go out that way. But like you said, I don't think he was going to go out at Extreme Rules. But I did think it really, again, humanizes him with that quote, like, this is the only thing in his life. He's done it for 30 years. He's like, as a dad, as a husband, I don't have all the answers. He's showing his vulnerability, and I don't know, man. I just thought it was a really, really cool quote, and shows how he's almost like psychologically coping for his, I guess, his limitations, and as a human with this inhuman character he's been playing and this persona he's had for 30 years. And
kind of right after that, Undertaker talks about saying he told Shawn Michaels on several occasions, man, I should have left with you. And Batista, again, just gets right to the point of it and says, I think there's something inside of Undertaker that worries about what's going to happen with this business when he leaves. It's like it's his child, and he's scary for him to step away and let it go on its own. I mean, more than anybody else, this is all Undertaker has ever known. Like, there's so many guys from that era, whether it's Hogan or Austin, Batista himself, The Rock, Cena, so many guys that have had movie careers and other stuff to go off to. And then Triple H, he's been on the business side of things for years.
Right.
Shawn Michaels has even done movies and, working in NXT.
Kane's the mayor.
Kane's the mayor. Sure. Taker is only ever done wrestling. That's his thing. Big Show, even. Big Show's got the Big Show show.
Big Show.
He's got other stuff, man. Taker, this is it, man. When he leaves this, I'm sure it weighs heavy on him. Like, what is after this? How do I let go of this? And, man, it is, you connect to that emotion, to that reality going on here.
Yeah, you really do. Really, really do.
Well, the show ends with a little tease once again to the final episode as we see Undertaker and AJ walking and talking in the hallway at Extreme Rules. So, nice little final note here going into Chapter 5. But let's get your awards, man. What was your best cameo in episode number 4?
All right.
There's no
McConaughey,
question.
baby. It's no,
No
question.
question. Although I'll give a runner-up to Regis. I enjoyed seeing Regis Philbin on there. I always
Dude,
fought
that
for him.
film, that footage was like from the bottom of a shipwreck or something. It was awful. It was so blurry and like crappy.
It's not great. Not great.
It was great to see though.
Funniest moment.
Man, maybe just those guys trying to crack him. No. I'm sorry. Vince talking about John Gonzalez's son who's
Yes.
going to wrestle. I think
For
that's
sure.
it for me.
We didn't mention it, but I'll say there's this moment in Extreme Rules where I guess the caterer or somebody comes up to Undertaker and AJ saying, "That guy, you got some Diet Dr Pepper because you guys are the only two guys that drink that stuff." And AJ says something about, "Oh yeah, gotta have that DDP," and Undertaker does like a double take. He says, "Hold on now, man. Don't use that phrase around me."
I was actually looking for some Diet Dr. Pepper because you two are the only people I know that drink that
DDP.
stuff.
What? Don't say
Good-
it. Wait.
good-
What?
Sorry.
Man? Okay. All right.
You know,
Just cut it short.
you just
All right. All right. I'm about half hot.
I didn't come up with that. He came up with that.
That's
I guess he still harbors some ill will. I don't know.
Still
Man.
a little hot about that.
That's funny.
All right, and biggest revelation out of episode number 4 for you.
I don't know if it's a revelation, but just that quote I just talked about. I guess it is a revelation because you see that's literally the name of the next chapter. But you see that reveals that he is human, and he's, like I said, it's almost like he's overcompensating for the rest of his life, where he may not have all the answers, and he's not in control, but he's got all the answers here. This is his realm. So
I'll say just the fact that Undertaker basically told Vince he was done after Extreme Rules right there. I hadn't heard that, and can't believe that he said that to him right there. Didn't want to go to WrestleMania or anything like that, but the fact that he was okay at that moment, at least, with being done right there, that was pretty shocking to me.
yep.
But of course, it is not the end, but this one is, man. Episode 5, Chapter 5, like you just said, called Revelation here. Just aired a couple nights ago on the WWE Network, and man, one of the most spectacular finales you could ever imagine here. Just a perfect hour or so of television that airs. Very emotional as we see Taker walking out of that Extreme Rules pay-per-view and heads off to Hawaii with the family for a couple weeks. And but Michelle says she wasn't counting him out yet. She didn't believe that he was quite done.
Yeah, and she says, he's been Undertaker for 30 years, and I'm afraid that he isn't sure what Mark Calloway does next, which is like we just mentioned about, he's got all the answers for everything else. Like he's finally coming to grips with he's got to hang up these boots and he's got to become a human again. He got to put this persona down. He's got to be a dad and a husband and, full time. I just think it's great. And Triple H again just nails a homer here. He says,
The easiest person to lie to is yourself. The dragon is still there. And you're still chasing. You're not done. What he deserves is not the moment. He deserves to be satisfied.
which is true about anybody. That's such like a philosophical like mic drop right there. It's great, but and he says but Taker deserves to be satisfied.
He does deserve it. That's the thing. He doesn't. We don't deserve to get all the stuff that he's given us.
No.
He's the one who deserves
Nope.
to be happy and satisfied with all this. So, like you said, he's going to come to MSG again after that final time at Madison Square Garden. Just cutting a promo on an episode of SmackDown, but really cool moment as Taker talks about he loves all the pictures on the wall inside Madison Square Garden, seeing guys like Elvis and Muhammad Ali. And then on this night, they had put up a poster of him giving a leg drop to Kane at WrestleMania 20, right above a picture of Elvis. And how cool that was for him. Dude, I think Elvis and Muhammad Ali is the perfect combination of what The Undertaker is. Man, like, you got sports, and entertainment commingling right there. The icon, the person who most embodies both of those things. He's this great athlete, this great entertainer. It's kind of perfect that he talks about those two guys together.
It really is, man. It just you can't write this stuff. It's great, real life playing out before us. It's awesome, and just like I said, how cool for him to see that. And one thing he does say here too is he's like, if you're in tune with what I do, you can tell it takes me a little longer to leave the ring now. He's like, everybody knows my entrance is long, but it's taking me a little bit longer to leave the rings now. He says, I want the fans to know how much they've sustained me over the years, and how grateful I am for getting me through so much, whether it's personal stuff or surgeries or whatever, he says, and I think again, he says here, I'm good at it. I'm at a place here where it's okay if I never wrestle again. It's after he's at MSG, so, which we know is like Triple H just said, the easiest person to lie to is yourself. So, but seeing how much he holds us fans, holds us fans in high regard, and that's a huge revelation for me watching this series.
He starts to get a little emotional here too. As at first he's asking for the interviewer or the cameraman to get him some makeup wipes. He's like, I don't wear makeup. This is my war mask he's got on, and that kind of inspires him to talk about his relationship with his dad, which was really special to watch on Father's Day this past Sunday. Really timely.
Makeup remover? Yeah, I'm glad you said it, not me. Cut that. I don't wear makeup, man. This is my war mask. That's what I used to tell my dad. I brought my dad one time when he was still alive. I was in Houston working at the old Summit. I brought my dad backstage with me. He was kind of shadowing me everywhere I went, and it was time to start getting ready. And he's asking me questions, about my boots or whatever it was, my hat, my coat. Then I did the eyes last, and I looked over at him, and he was just like, he's just shaking his head like, yes, Dad, your 6'8", 330-pound son is putting on eye makeup. He's like, I would have never. But there was nobody any prouder than my dad. No one more upset about my career choice, but no one more proud by the end of it.
We see some awesome photos of Taker playing basketball in high school and college, and then actual photos of Mark Calloway and his dad together. Man, just really, really special as he talks about that bond he has with him, or had with him.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like I said, seeing it on Father's Day was pretty neat. It wasn't lost on me that this episode was dropping on Father's Day. I just, that was pretty cool.
That leads into the drama of AJ Styles petitioning Undertaker to have a match at WrestleMania, kind of based on the Broken Skull Sessions episode with the Undertaker, interview with Stone Cold had, where Taker said he wanted to go out on his own terms, and so AJ decides, if he's going to have one more match, I'm at least going to try to get him to have it with me. The
worst he can say is no, he said.
The worst he can say is no. The worst thing I saw was AJ Styles' mustache on this episode, man. Why have I... At first I was like, it hasn't always been like that, and it hasn't, but what is up? Why is it shaved between his nose and his upper lip, man? What is the deal with that?
Just keeping it thin, man. Pencil thin mustache time. I don't know, man.
I hate that.
Yeah. It's not always like that, but it was here. He had it cut real tight, real close to the lip.
Yeah, I didn't care for that.
No, but he's, yeah, it was weird, but it is cool seeing him. He's like, I just, if he says no, and he says he called Taker without talking to Vince. He's like, because if he says no, there's no reason to even bring it up. But Taker says he told AJ that, we would have tore the place down 10 to 15 years ago, but I got no aspirations to get back in the ring. And then it's funny because we cut to a talking head from Edge, and Edge is like, if there's anyone on the roster I want to get back in the ring with, it's AJ Styles. If I'm Taker, like, that's the guy. Like, that is the guy to get back in the ring with. And then Taker talks about how, he's something that we've both hit on here. It's like, I work better with smaller guys, and they show some clips of him with like Angle and Brett and Rey Mysterio, I think even, and Sean. They don't show Nunzio, but
I could have. That's the best last ride ever.
yeah.
And to go into that, they show. Michelle McCool kind of basically talks Taker into doing it. He's saying, if you're gonna do it, he's the guy to do it with, and there's nobody better. And then we see Undertaker. This was so awesome. Going to the Performance Center to give some wisdom to some other big guys. I don't know all these guys' names. I recognize Keith Lee and Punishment
Damian Priest is
Damian Priest. That's his WWE name. Yeah.
Yeah, and then these two big Middle Eastern guys. I think their name is. They're on the show now with Malcolm Bivens as their little mouthpiece, but they're pretty good. And then I thought I saw Dijakovic in there, but maybe not. But Matt Riddle's actually in there when Taker's at the doorway. Then he leaves, I guess, because he's not a big guy. But that would have been funny to see him and talking to Taker. But every Taker kicked him out, but it was really neat seeing these big guys and just seeing like, dude, I would love to have been in that room that night.
And he watched tape of those guys and actually gets in the ring with a few of them, and which was just awesome. There's a wonderful shot of those young guys in the ring, and it pans out to Undertaker outside the ring. It's just this guy at the end of his 30-year career watching the next generation right outside the ring. Just one of my favorite shots in the whole 5 episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was the poetry, and that was really cool. And that brings me to something I do want to mention here. This it not really play into much of it, but Randy Orton has a little thing here talking about just how much Taker's done for the younger guys in the business, and he says, they show them on SmackDown in 2002. It's in like Orton debuted in like April, right? And then this match maybe in May or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a couple weeks after he's been there. Yeah, but he says,
I could tell he liked me because I was arm dragging him, hip tossing him, giving him backdrops. He was taking all these bumps for me because he wanted to go out there and really make the young kid look good. I remember we came back through Gorilla and Vince was like, "What are you doing?" And Undertaker just looked at him and he goes, "Well, it's good for the kid. I'm trying to make the kid. Isn't that what we do?" And that response right there I thought was so cool, and it just showed me he just wants to make me look good because he knows that I'll return the favor farther down the line.
Which is just, that's right, man. You got to give to the next generation. It shows him, with Bray Wyatt and him with Jeff Hardy and the ladder match and stuff, and like he's always been about putting, even though he may win the feud at the end, like whether it's a Ken Anderson or wasn't it Ken Kennedy or something like that, or MVP, but he still goes in there with these young guys and still works. Batista, Edge, he still works with these young guys and tries to put them on the map. And I just seeing Orton do that, man, like I just thought it's like, dude, I'm making some new talent here. Like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Like, he gets it, man. He gets it.
Yeah, we see it weekly, man. Like Shelton Benjamin, we talked about on here, like a guy he beat him every time they wrestled, but he always gave him a ton of stuff and let him get near falls and let him get all his suplexes and stuff in, man. He always did that. So cool. And he's going to do it for AJ. He's going to help get AJ over, although not quite at the Saudi Arabia show where they start things off and AJ Taker squashes him without taking his hat or his jacket off. But it's
funny because Taker does what he says everybody tells him to do. They're like, just come out, get the music, the walk, the choke slam, the pin, the pose, and everyone's going to go home happy. Which he's like, I'm not good with that. Well, he has to do it here for this match. And he wins the Aggro Crack Cup. Yeah,
he wins that, and then he throws his wrist tape in the garbage and says, Kobe.
I don't think it takes too big a brain surgeon to figure out what's going to happen, Kobe. This is kind of the launching pad to Mania.
Just like nonchalant, man. Just like something he always
does. It's like in the middle of a sentence. Yeah. He's like, so I went out there and did that. Drop Kobe. It's awesome, dude. So good.
Maybe that was something he got from the New Day.
Oh man, seeing them, dude. This is one of the best parts of the entire series, dude. Is Taker? He's spraying his hair backstage, which is weird, but and him and Kofi and Big E talking, and dude, because they're basically laying out the entire match. That's what they do nowadays. They lay out everything, and Taker's like, I just don't get it, man. And Kofi's joking like, we got to just build on what you guys did, And he's like, y'all didn't have high def back then, so we got to worry about everything. And Taker's like, oh yeah, man. They're just going back and forth, just ribbing each, like just kind of improving, and Big E's like, if I grab the wrist like this, it shows too much skin to the high def camera, and gotta turn about this way. And it's just funny watching them go back and forth talking about it, because they're trying to justify why they mark out everything, and he's talking about him and Triple H don't call anything.
Yeah, I think he said something like they didn't have time to go over stuff at the last Saudi show because Kofi or whoever took up too much time. And by the time they were going to go out there and practice some stuff, they were already letting people in the door. He was like getting onto them for that sort of stuff. But it was great. It was cool that they have that kind of relationship with Taker.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was great.
We hear Undertaker and AJ and Michelle McCool talking about the build to this Boneyard match for WrestleMania 36, and how AJ was starting to make things really personal with Michelle, and how Michelle was actually getting a little hot about it a little bit even, and starting to hate AJ. And Taker explains how, okay, well, AJ's going to bring in my personal life. Doesn't really make sense for me to be the dead man. I need to bring in something else. I kind of need to tap into this American BA character, the Biker Taker thing. And we actually throw back to the debut of Biker Taker at Judgment Day 2000 and actually hear a few seconds of Kid Rock on the WWE Network, which we did not hear on the pay-per-views when we were going through them. So I guess they just missed it. They missed the edit.
Maybe if you only play like 6 seconds, you can do it or something. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, but I thought it's interesting because this was before the COVID-19 had shut everything down, and like he was still bringing this. He called it the Holy Trinity, and it was basically the American BA, the Biker Taker, the Dead Man, and Mark Calloway into all. Going to bring them all to meet AJ Styles, which to me, I'm just guessing here, but it's almost like he kind of knew. Again, they're supposed to wrestle in a ring, so he kind of knew this is it for me. Like, I'm going to go out, but I'm going to bring Mark Calloway in this so I can kind of relinquish this persona of the Dead Man and put on the persona of Mark Calloway. Like, I don't know if that's me reading too much into it, but that's kind of how I felt. Why he was bringing that in here. So,
yeah, for sure. I think that was always going to play a part in it, no matter how the match laid out. But then, of course, we go into the COVID-19 coronavirus stuff and how that just plays a factor into this WrestleMania taking this huge change of pace, but it opens up the doorway for them to do something different. These two guys could do something cinematic and special here. So we get this awesome footage of them constructing the boneyard at this old farmhouse in Florida's dilapidated area, and how they built it up in just a few days. We see them laying out the match with Anderson and Gallows and all this sort of stuff. But then something devastating happens for Mark just a few days before WrestleMania. His brother passes away from a heart attack, which I had no idea of. And him just talking about it now, you can see how emotional he still is. It's still very raw for him a few months later. And you can see how that's going to play a major factor in his decision-making coming out of this match as well.
Yeah. And this is one thing, too, man. It's like this was not a dirt sheet at all. This was not online anywhere. Nobody spilled these beans. He's been doing a lot of press recently with all these podcasts and interviews on the ESPN and stuff like that. And he hasn't mentioned this one time. We got this revelation during this episode called Revelation. He finally revealed this. And this has happened back in March or April, I guess it was, or end of March, beginning of April. So, but he says, the show's got to go on. I still got to do this thing. But like how surreal. He talks about how it's kind of weird. Like there's caskets and tombstones, and like my brother's dead now. But like like how surreal it was. But he's a pro, and he goes through with it because again, he eats, sleeps, and breathes his business, and he gives everything to it and to the fans. And we even see that again because when he punches a hole through the window and he gets glass in his arm, which kind of like Goldberg did back in '99. Yeah. But they have to stop production and like stop the shoot, and he has to get glass pulled out of his arm, which is just like he's a freaking pro, man. He didn't owe me that. Like he didn't owe you that. None of us. He didn't have to go through this match at all. Like I just learned like so much in this episode. Like he didn't have to give any of this for like us, and he did.
And you can tell though, like I said, how much that's going to weigh on him going forward here as they do the Boneyard match, and it is just a rousing success. It does finally, after a few years, it does steal the show at WrestleMania. I think that, along with the Firefly Funhouse, those are going to be the two things anyone remembers this WrestleMania for. It ended up being the best possible scenario for Taker and AJ. Although I thought it was very interesting how Taker said this match was almost more exhausting than a real wrestling match because it took so many hours to film, and we'd do a few spots and then have to take a break and set up the next thing, and you'd get up for it, and then your body would get cold, and then you'd have to warm up and do some physical stuff again. So, and you're doing, they were doing all these spots and stuff. They didn't have stuntmen coming in and doing this stuff. They were still doing it, and they only had a limited time to film it. You got to do it all at night, so you've only got few hours. You're on a deadline here.
Yeah.
So I could totally. I haven't thought about that, but I could totally understand that. But it ends up getting a great reception from people.
Yeah.
And Taker talks about how much that meant to him. It was like reading the response. It felt good in the moment, but just seeing how people responded to it too. That kind of helped cement the big decision he's going to make.
Yeah, it did. And in this, talking about his brother dying and stuff like that, I think Michelle McCool's like nephew died too, or something right around that time.
Yeah.
Too. He talks about how important it is to be with your family, and he says, because we see them 2 months later and they're fishing. So I guess this was just in end of May or June or whatever. But
well, they took a break between these first 3 episodes, so I think some of the stuff for this last couple were just filmed pretty recently.
And he says that Kobe Bryant's death made him realize how it's time to be present and to give home the attention that he's always given the business, and I am in no way trying to promote myself or anything, but I literally just wrote a song about this like 3 weeks ago called Time, about like like I got 3 little kids, and you got friends and you got family, and like this. I was thinking the same thing that when he's talking about this in this episode, I'm like getting choked up thinking about, like this is the same stuff I was feeling this the other day when I wrote the song, just about like, you got to be present now and, don't have any regrets and just go, there's no second chance to just do your best now and give everything to your home life too, that you give everywhere else. So it was pretty funny, I just thought it was funny how like that worked, and it's really hit me, and it being Father's Day, I think too, just kind of hit me too, but pretty cool.
It was very honest and very touching and very real as he shared all that, and we saw the footage of that. The Undertaker talks about how he's got to separate himself from Mark Calloway, or he's got to separate Mark Calloway from the Undertaker and figure out, what do I do next? And he says, the words that everyone's talking about coming out of this. If
there was ever a perfect ending to a career, that right there is it. If Vince was in a pinch, would I come back? I guess time will only tell there. In case of emergency, break glass, you pull out the Undertaker. I mean, I would have to consider that. Never say never, but at this point in my life and in my career, I have no desire to get back in the ring.
We talked about it. We did a little bonus, reaction to that match immediately after it happened, and we talked about how that match could have only happened after 30 years of The Undertaker. You know,
Yes.
he earned that ability to pull that sort of match off. And we've seen some of these cinematic matches they've done since then. You know, they've been kind of hit and miss. You know, some people have liked them more than others, but I don't think any of them have hit quite the way that this one did. I'd say it's better than the Firefly Funhouse even, and that one was really cool and unique in its own way. But I think this one, I'm biased, obviously, but I'm going to say this one is going to be the one that people will remember and put above all the others that have come after it here.
And there's one reason why, and it's him.
It's him. It's him all the way.
Yeah.
And AJ is a great foil for him, and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they play a great part in it as well. And it's cool that they got to have their little moment in the sun. But
Yeah,
of course,
they got fired 10 days later.
Of course, Undertaker qualifies it and says, yeah, Vince was in a pinch, and had to hit that break in case of emergency glass for The Undertaker. I'd consider it, but time will tell. But as of now, I have no desire to get back in the ring, which, man, it's just, even after all this time, it's pretty shocking to hear him say those words finally.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I think, but just seeing it unfold and seeing his humanity and seeing how much he wants to be there for home, and be present, like you said, be present with his family. And
getting that scare with
really,
Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, he talks about that so much, and how he's not as sharp as he wants to be, and his body is not as resilient as it used to be either. So literally every time he goes out there, he's risking making his wife a widow. So and having his brother die and seeing Kobe die, all these episodes, all of these storylines really play into this moment.
Yeah, they really do. And then we get Troubadour by George Strait playing to close the show out. And it's just really, really cool. Great song. I'm glad that they licensed that. They also licensed For Whom the Bell Tolls, Metallica, when they recapped the Boneyard match. So really glad they got that there. But, it kind of ends here with some, I guess, friends reflecting on Taker. And Mick Foley makes a fantastic comment saying, he put a lot of people on the map, and JBL says that he never had an off night, which we've talked about, even if it's, like I said, even if it's Ken Kennedy, he's going out there and putting his best foot forward and never tried to mail it in. And but then, Taker even says, I hope the fans realize how much I gave and how much energy they had that got me through those nights. And it's just, it's humbling to hear how much he puts us on a pedestal. We put him on a pedestal. It's just kind of fun to see that reciprocated. You don't often hear about that from famous people,
Absolutely, man. It's so special to see him hopefully at peace with everything, because, like you said, like so many have said, he didn't owe us anything. He could have retired 20 years ago and it still would have been a legend, man. He didn't owe us any of this, but he kept wanting to give back and kept wanting to do it. There's some great shots of him with some of his friends throughout the years, like Bryan Adams and Yokozuna and The Godfather, our boy. Some just great behind-the-scenes shots of them, the BSK on the back of the bus and at Bradshaw's wedding, and all these funny photos throughout the years. As The Undertaker says,
that famous one with the Click and the BSK and Austin and all those guys too.
Yeah, that's a great one. Taker says, this time the cowboy is really going to ride away. I did things my way, and I'm going to leave my way, and I'm good with that. And I hope that's the case, man. I hope he is at peace with it. We've said since day one, it's his decision to make. We hoped he was retired that first time, but he wanted to come back, and it was like, all right, if that's what he wants to do, and he's having fun with it, that's awesome. But man, if he's happy with how it ended, then that's what counts, man. Because that was a very memorable, very iconic way to go out as well. It told a great story.
Oh yeah.
And this series told an incredible story as well. What a special companion piece to that career and to that ending as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's the best thing they've ever done on the network. They'll never be able to duplicate something like this. But I just personally hope that The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, knows that he doesn't owe any of us anything else. Like, he is seriously given us above and beyond. Like, he doesn't owe us anything at all, man. Like, I wish I could just talk to him and tell him that, like, you're good, man. Like Batista said, like, he just stop. Like, it's okay. Like, you're done. You know, like, it's okay to be done. You don't owe me anything else. Like, we met this guy, and that's the icing on the cake for me too. Like, he's a really cool guy too. But you know, I just really, really think this is the greatest thing they've ever done, and it really, really just cemented him as, you know, the guy. You know.
Maybe we can say that to him at one point. You know, he's been on every other podcast lately. Maybe he can come on ours eventually.
Yeah, he's going on all kind of lame stuff too. Let's come on ours.
Come on, man. Come on, Mark. You got time on your hands now.
Yeah.
But seriously, you know, when we started talking and doing this podcast, we wanted to trace the evolution, not just of this character, but of the business. And what better way to illustrate that than this Last Ride series in general? Because 30 years ago, when The Undertaker started, a series of this nature, not just on a wrestling network, but just something with this sort of backstage access would have been unheard of. But the fact that we're able to watch a series like this with such great cinematography, with such great storytelling throughout the whole thing, it's partly because of the success and the dedication of The Undertaker. I mean, he is a huge cornerstone of what the WWE and Vince McMahon has built over the years. And going back to that Vince relationship, man, I think that's so telling. Vince used to rip on WCW about having Hogan and Savage out there when they're in their 40s, basically. They're still relatively young nowadays. And he's still bitter and having the Huckster and Nacho Man and all that stuff. But, you know, I think Vince sees himself getting older. And I think he relates to these older guys more and more. I think that's why you've got Randy Orton and The Big Show main eventing on Monday Night Raw this past week and having a storyline with each other. As Vince, he doesn't want to push those guys out the door anymore because Vince is like, he sees himself. He doesn't want anybody to push him out the door. He doesn't want anyone to say, oh, I'm old. I don't have anything to offer. Well, no, these guys have something to offer. And I think that's why he had that connection with Undertaker throughout these years and allowed him to keep coming back and kept wanting to use him because Vince saw himself in Undertaker in a lot of ways. And that's something that kind of revealed to me throughout this episode and through this whole series.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And, you know, we have said since episode 1, he wasn't our favorite wrestler. I mentioned it earlier, but like, I think after this, we can safely say he's the greatest performer of all time. And we've talked on this show about how, you know, wrestling is subjective, you know, and there's best match, greatest match, bestest. And like, you know, I'm not saying he's the best wrestler or he is the best performer, but I think he is the greatest performer because of how he kept kayfabe. I mean, again, this is not anybody else. No other character could we do this on because they've been exposed. We know their real life. We know the skeletons in their closet. Nobody knew his brother died. It was only 3 months ago. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he kept that close to the vest as well, you know? Like, I don't know. I just think he's the greatest. Again, I think Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring performer, or Ric Flair, or whatever. Like, that's not even a question in my mind. But, like, as far as the greatest performer, like, just overall everything, character, brings everything to the table, keeps it serious, gives you 100% all the time. Like I said earlier, he, you know, don't embarrass yourself, don't embarrass the company, don't embarrass man. This is the guy. This is the one.
I can't say it any better, man. This whole series is a perfect companion piece to him. It is worthy of his great career. It's funny. It's emotional. It deserves. It's real. It deserves an Emmy, Oscar. Give it a Grammy for George
If this was on
Strait
ESPN, yeah, they could get an Emmy.
Yeah, it's you know, just as good in my opinion as the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary as far as wrestling goes. All right, final awards for this episode, man. Final Undie awards. What's your best cameo on episode 5?
Ooh, cameo. I'm trying to think whether there were many cameos.
There wasn't
I
much
think
on
maybe
this
just.
one.
Oh, I think just seeing the NXT guys. I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
Like, so that would just
That's
blew me away to see him there. So just them as a whole, not one person, but how about you?
Yeah, I'll say Elvis. Seeing Elvis at Madison Square Garden and hearing about him on here. I wasn't expecting that. Funniest moment?
Maybe something we didn't even mention, which was that they tried to rib AJ about who Taker was going to face at Mania. And Taker told Vince to call him and say that he is going to work Mania, but not against him, against some young kid from Tennessee. And AJ's like, dude, they're the worst ribbers. Like, they suck at it.
Called Vince up. I tried to rib AJ. I said, look, I'm going to do it, but I want you to call AJ for me. I want you to let him know that that I'm going to work Mania, but just tell him that I'm going to work with somebody else.
Vince, he goes, well, I'll talk to Taker, and there's some kid in Tennessee he wants to get over and stuff on that. And I'm like, what? He goes, no, I'm serious. You probably need to call him. And then I called Taker and said, listen, there's this younger kid that I want to put over. I was like, bull crap, man. That's bull. So it was, they tried to rib me, but come on.
That was great. I'll say Kobe. That might have been it for me. And biggest revelation. I mean, it's got to be the fact that Undertaker is walking away. I mean, that's the revelation for all of this.
I had a feeling that's how this whole thing was going to end when they announced it. I'm glad it ended that way and not with like some thing where he's talking and AJ busts in and they start going, and not some storyline. We got real the whole time. It wasn't storyline, it wasn't anything built into a TV match. This was all the real deal. So, and again, he said never say never. You never know, but if they want to have one more at Survivor Series where it's actually his 30th year or whatever. But again, you don't owe me anything, Mark. This is fine with me. You're good. You go out. It's all good.
Well, we did do a poll on our Twitter page. We asked you guys, the listeners of Talking Taker, do you think we'll ever see The Undertaker compete in the ring again? 59.3% did say yes, we do think we'll see Undertaker in the ring again. So 40.7% said no. We actually got a lot of votes for that one, so pretty good sampling of Undertaker fans. What say you, Travis? Will we see The Undertaker compete in the ring again?
I do not think we'll see him in another match, like bell-to-bell match. I do think we'll see him again. He'll come out and, the gong will hit. He'll come out and do a promo, or he'll come out and do so. I think we'll see that, but I don't think we'll see him in between the ropes doing another match again.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with you. It wouldn't shock me if there is another match.
Right.
But he's got to have... He's going to have the Hall of Fame eventually. He could have his own night of the Hall of Fame. I would love to see him at Survivor Series this year, but I mean, I just want to see him in front of a crowd one more time. Whenever we're allowed to have crowds back in the arenas again, he's got to have the dead man entrance one more time and let the fans say thank you, Taker, to him in person. I want to see that. I need to see that. He deserves that, and I hope he's able to get that. If he's okay with being done in the ring, then I'll be okay with it too. I'd love to see him in another match with fans, but I understand if he wants to be done with it there. Just a couple more things to wrap it up here real quick. There are some bonus scenes, as I alluded to earlier. You can find them all on YouTube, and we'll try to link up some of them on our Twitter page here. Real quick, there's one of The Undertaker doing cryotherapy. I believe this is before WrestleMania 34. He's getting doing everything he can to get ready for that match. And he says after he hops out of that cryotherapy chamber, he's cool as a cucumber, and he hates cucumbers. So we don't quite get the story of that, but he does allude to it. There's another one about that Raw 25 special, and also about him doing Make-A-Wish appearances before that Raw 25 show.
Oh, yeah.
And basically says that weird promo on that night was intentional, and he wanted to confuse the fans and not have them knowing whether or not he was going to come back before WrestleMania 34.
Well, he nailed that one, though.
He did. He nailed it. There's a story Stone Cold has told before about having to ask Undertaker for permission to use the skull logo and how Undertaker approved it, and he didn't have to do that, but he helped him make his career off that. There's some footage of people like Stone Cold, Batista, Bray, Shane, all these guys talking about Undertaker's iconic entrances. There's a scene of Undertaker talking about his favorite WrestleMania opponents, or just favorite opponents in general, like Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, Batista, Ric Flair. And then there's an extended scene of JBL talking about that rib on Undertaker, trying to get him to break character, and how he also says the reason why he has a giant scar on his head is because he had that cowbell match with Eddie Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero busted him open, and he was bleeding all over the place. And when he was getting stitched up, Undertaker was talking to the trainer and was making the trainer laugh, and the trainer got distracted and did a terrible job on his stitches. So that's why JBL still has a giant scar on his forehead. So
like a rib from Taker. Yeah, it's hilarious.
It'd take you about 20 minutes to go watch some of these deleted scenes. It's definitely worth doing if you're looking for some extra content. But if you really want to go in depth, there are, I don't know if everybody knows this, but there are these post-mortem specials on the network that is basically some video podcasts for each episode, talking to, there's one with Michelle McCool after one episode, one with HBK, one with Shane McMahon. The last one had AJ Styles and some of the other, I think it's some of the guys from the Bump TV show, maybe.
Yeah.
I know you watched one of them, Travis. I didn't really watch any of them.
I watched the AJ Styles one today, and just a couple quick notes from it. He just, says that obviously he's flattered that was Taker's last match. If it was, he said, but, if there's any way they could do one in front of fans, he'd be honored to do that. He'd jump at the chance. And then he also mentions how his best WrestleMania match, like in the ring, was against Shane McMahon. And Shane McMahon and Taker are always going back and forth after each other, and Shane wants redemption from the cell. So he said, what about a three-way with us three? So he was just kidding, but he thought, that would be fun.
I don't know. That could be a train wreck.
No. Yeah, it would be. He's like, Shane would just jump off something and we had to dodge him and all that stuff. But yeah, he does say that, he respects this guy. And he said, even before he was in WWE, guys, he was in TNA with the New Japan or whatever, like these guys he wrestled around would say, like, you got to meet Mark. You got to meet Taker. Like, you got to meet him. And so he said once he got to meet him and get to know the man, he's like, I just learned so much from it. And he says the same thing we said. He said, I think, in fact, he said the word nuances. He said he does the little things better than anyone in the history of the wrestling business has done, whether it's from his entrance to his gear to the things in the ring, the way he carries himself, and the little things he does during a match are better than anybody he's ever been in the ring with, which coming from AJ Styles is a big compliment too.
For sure. So yeah, there is a lot of extra content if you can't get enough of this Last Ride series. I did read a rumor from WWE DVD News on Facebook and Twitter that right now there's a mystery DVD set on the calendar in the fall of this year, and they are speculating that they could see a DVD or Blu-ray release of this series. So I haven't bought I haven't bought any DVDs or Blu-rays in years, but that would be, I'd have to make an exception for that, especially if they put some bonus stuff on there. That would be really cool to have it on a physical copy.
Oh yeah, I'll be there. I know Randy Turco will be there.
Oh, without question. Well, let me end it with Randy Turco here. We asked for you guys' feedback on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at TalkingTaker all the time. And Randy's basically our third co-host at this point. So, of course, he's going to give his feedback here and says, for me, the most revealing detail was Undertaker's internal struggle, finding that balance between health and time with his family and his passion and finding the right exit for his character. I had read reports for years that he didn't value the streak or titles like the fans do, and that he was willing to drop either of those at any time. And I thought he felt the same about his finale. I was shocked to see that, like us, he had the same desire to see the Undertaker character exit like Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair. And I'm so glad to see that he found that exit, possibly, although in a very different way. The Boneyard match was against the right guy, small enough to bump around and make him look good, and it also gave him the benefit of second takes if he needed to hide Father Time. Well done. Clapping hands emoji. So I think that sums up what we're feeling. I think that sums up what so many of you are feeling. What a special, special gift that we got this series. I will forever be thankful for it. I can't wait to revisit it again for a third time, and because it was just one of those things that I know I'll go back to and rewatch. So many great episodes. My wife sat there and watched some of them with me, and she was entertained by it. I mean, it's, even if you're not a wrestling fan or if you haven't watched wrestling in a long time, it's just great storytelling. It's a great document. Much like that Michael Jordan documentary was great, whether you care about basketball or not. I think this show would be great for anybody.
That's my next goal, is to get my wife to watch this with me at some point. So I think she'll, I don't know, she might enjoy it. She might humor me. We'll see. It's great, man.
We'll talk her into it.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you guys will tune in with us next week. We'll get back to the swing of things. It'll be weird going back after this, but we are committed to this.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna go back to Bragging Rights 2009. It'll be weird to go back to that, but it's Undertaker, Batista, CM Punk, and Rey Mysterio in a fatal 4-way match. Match I've never seen before. It'll be fun to see Undertaker going up against those guys, and we'll get back to the regular, normal swing of things. But man, this has been a special one, Travis. I'm so glad we got to talk about it together, and the timing worked out perfectly. What a great way to celebrate 150 episodes. Man, just love doing it. I love doing this with you every week, and I love doing this episode with you, man.
Absolutely, it was great. It was a good last ride, and we thank you guys for staying with this long ride we took. But we had 5 hours of stuff to recap, so we left out a lot of good stuff too. So, but I hope you guys can hear how we try to keep things lighthearted, but some of this is kind of serious and emotional too here at the end, because it's a sobering piece of art we just watched, and his work was art. It really was, and you could tell that he gave his life to it. And we're talking about him like he's dead. He's not. He's still alive. He's just, this character is possibly dead. He can go be the man, the husband, and the father that he's supposed to be, and give, like he said, give the attention to home the way that he's given to the business and to all of his fans. So I hope and pray that he gets that. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what your undies are. What are your undies for each episode? Your favorite cameo, favorite or most surprising moment, and then what was it? The most funniest moment?
Yes.
Yeah, let us know your undies for each episode, and not what you're wearing, not the underwear you have on your body, but let us know what your undies are for each episode.
Our DMs are open.
Send those to @adorio. Anyway, yeah, hit us up on all the social media accounts. What are they? @TalkingTaker, at everything.
At everything. Yep. Yeah, it's all good, man. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. Going on this journey with you guys has been so special as well, and we're looking forward to finishing it out. And Undertaker, you're retired, man. You're welcome to come to the cookout whenever you want. Welcome to come to our barbecue. We'll come to you.
No doubt. Exactly. I'll take a week off, come over there just because. So who knows? But anyway, yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. Let us know your thoughts on these episodes. And like we always say, stay safe out there. And we hope The Undertaker can do this. We hope Mark Calloway can do this. But all of you guys as well, will take her easy.
This time, the cowboy really rides away.
2, 3, 4.
When life comes quick like a waterfall,
time rushes by, don't you lose it all. And the sands keep falling through the hourglass, and the time keeps ticking as the grains go past. So desperately we pray you'll see, and then time is spent, time is a gift. It's time to live in the present tense, moving forward, no wasted breath, no second chance. Time is a gift. As time gets closer to the end, well, you can't go back to where you began. Well, the cat's in the cradle, or so they say. Well, I'm spinning the sunlight making hay. So desperately we pray you'll see, and then time is spent, time is a gift. It's time to live in the present tense, moving forward, no wasted breath, no second chance. Time is a gift. Time is funny in its own way. Tomorrow, today is yesterday. Time is funny in its own way. Tomorrow, today is yesterday. So desperately we pray you'll see, and then time is spent, time is a gift. It's time to live in the present tense, moving forward, no wasted breath, no second chance, and no time is a gift. Time is spent, time is a gift, and it's time to live in the present tense, moving forward, no wasted breath, no second chance. You know time is a gift.